To Talking Turf with Jason Hodges.
Crikey, we are live.
We are live. I'm Joe Rogers from Lawn Solutions Australia, and this is the first time we've done it by Facebook Live. We did Zoom last time, and we handled that, but we're going to do our best here. If you see anything weird going on, it's us looking at Nathan, who's over the back here, who actually knows what he's doing with technology. Anyway, Jason, how you going?
Good, mate. And it's a great time of the year to be out in the garden talking about your lawn and talking about your garden. So we're going to tackle the two together today, heavily influenced by the lawn industry. But the days are getting longer, the ground's getting warmer, and it's just a great time to be out in the garden.
Absolutely. It's a good time of year, and like Jay said, we're covering all things, mainly turf, but not just turf, all things plants as well. And with the days getting longer, ground temperatures, ambient temperatures warming up, everything's starting to grow. Everyone's just happier in general, I think.
Well, I know that at this time of year, if you're in the garden, and a lot of us are in lockdown and we're staying at home, I've been trying to apply get the schoolwork done with the kids, but then get them out of the garden. And I'm teaching about garden lights at the moment and how low voltage isn't dangerous. And we tackled a little light project on the weekend, and they did it all themselves, and they're super motivated. They want to go and do it at grandparents' houses and ask our friends if they're interested in putting garden lights in. So I might have created a couple of electricians, I'm not sure.
Yeah, you've done well. You know what you're doing with that sort of stuff?
No, not much, but I Google searched it. This guy came up, and apparently he was on Better Homes and Gardens. He knew what he was talking about, so we just watched him. Yeah. It's kind of funny when you Google search yourself.
I reckon if I went into your search history, it'd be Jason Hodges. Anyway, we won't talk about that. So like we said, today's all things lawns and garden. If you've got a question, fire it away in the question section, I guess we'll call it. And if it's topical and if I see it, we'll answer it while we're going. If not, we've got a Q&A section at the end. So anything you want to ask about lawns, gardens, anything you want to ask of Jason. We had a question the other day about his Land Rover. You're pretty proud of your Land Rover, aren't you?
Love the Land Rover.
Land Rover. If you've got a question about his Land Rover, we'll ask that too. But just a quick one, just with COVID protocols, we did want to flag, we're actually regionally based here, so we're not under the same restrictions that a lot of other areas of Australia are. We both had negative tests. We've both been vaccinated. It's not the worst thing Jason will catch anyway, so I don't think we should be too worried about it. And we're 1.5 meters apart, so we're ticking a bunch of boxes. But we'll jump straight into it. So we've been speaking about how good of a time of the year is for all things outside and around the house. Plants, turf, what should we really be doing at this time of year as sort of a bit of a ballpark to get people going, get people started?
So we've been pretty lucky around here. We're in a moderate climate. We've had days in the last couple of weeks where it's been 26, 27 degrees. So they're beautiful days to be outside. We've had a couple of days of decent rain, and I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't witness it with my own two eyes. I'm growing buxus at the moment, so I've got a topiary farm, just like a turf farm. The amount of growth I've had the last 2 weeks, it has filled me with joy. And not because I'm going to cash in on it, just because I've realised that Mother Nature is just amazing. And the best thing about working in the garden at this time of the year, whether you've got a tiny courtyard, a quarter acre, or acreage, is that you're not getting knocked around by the sun. And if you're not getting knocked around by high 30s and heaps of humidity, same goes for your lawn and same goes for your plants. They are loving life at the moment. The ground's getting warmer. The days are getting longer. Daylight saving is going to kick in soon, so the days will get even longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You had me for a second there.
Yeah. No, but they're loving it. So, we were talking before, if you lay the lawn this week, you are going to see phenomenal growth and take up within the next 14 days. My rule of thumb was always about grand final day. And that's more inclusive of the moderate climates like in Victoria and Tasmania. But if you're living in the far north, in the subtropics and the tropics, Sydney, Perth, you could absolutely do nothing better than to lay on your lawn or plant something at this time of year, because it's just like putting money in the bank. It is going to be a guaranteed success.
And now with that's all good for new plants and new turf. It's a great time here. We're going to delve into that in a little bit more detail later on. But existing lawns and existing plants. So everyone will notice things are starting to grow with the warmer temperatures. Leaves are starting to shoot. New leaves are starting to shoot on deciduous trees. Any trees, your turf, you get the mower out again out of the shed, you dust it off, you get the whip snipper out. With everything starting to grow, I'd imagine there's a few good tips with plants and also turf that we can get into here.
All right, so with your lawn, the thing I'd look for is the areas that aren't looking like they're coming out of dormancy. And they would be the areas that are heavily compacted by shade over winter, because in summer, the sun goes directly over our head, and in winter it sets low and it goes low across the horizon. So you get different shades on your lawn and your garden in winter than you do in summer. So go and look for the spots that don't look fantastic.
Yep.
And they're the places we're going to talk about later on. You concentrate on maybe adding some gypsum, some fertilizer, aerating, top dressing with a coarse sand, things like that. And in your garden, look at things like extended hedge. So if you've got one across a boundary to hide a neighbour, and you might see a lot of new growth in spots, and then you might see spots that haven't. Well, rather than just give everything a haircut and a feed, concentrate on the spots that haven't grown. And I want to talk about a wetting agent because it's probably one of the least used tools that a typical homeowner has.
It's overlooked in lawn, not just plants too, I think. Yeah.
So a wetting agent, you could get 100 mil of rain, and if you've got ordinary uptake of that water, it all runs off into our curbs and gutters or ponds somewhere. It means it's not being absorbed into the garden. So a good thing just to start is if you've got mulch, move it around with a rake and see what it feels like 50 to 100 mils down. And if it's dry, then you've got a problem.
Yep.
And a wetting agent's just like putting shampoo and conditioner under your hair. It makes your hair softer.
You know what that is, do you?
Yeah, well, I just put a baseball cap on. But it allows the water to go through the soil, and soil can become hydrophobic. So the classic example with plants is a hedge called Morea, very common and popular. It has a really tight fibrous root system. So over its growing of a few years, it sends out all these oils and tannins into the soil because there's so many roots. And then when it rains, the water goes around the root ball rather than through it.
Yeah, okay.
So a wetting agent for lawn is a great thing if you've got dry spots, and it is imperative to get a hedge to be uniform. So it's an easy click on your hose.
You'd probably even look at that before you considered fertilising too, wouldn't you? Because you get more bang for your buck out of your water after you put a wetting agent on. So your fertiliser, your nutrients are getting down deeper.
100%. So you can put all the fertiliser in the world on top of your soil, and if the water, which is picking up that fertiliser, is going around the root ball or dispersing somewhere else, you're wasting money. And
so talking wetting agents and getting water to penetrate, getting roots down deeper, what about pruning and that sort of thing? So I know with lawns, it's obviously time to get the mower and start to cut, and we'll talk about cutting a little bit lower in a second when we get into more specifics about turf. Hedges, plants, good time to trim as well?
Great time. So look for things that are dead, diseased and damaged, because if your plants are flourishing at the moment, so are the pests and bugs that are going to attack your plants, and they're going to attack things that are damaged. And so look for branches that are rubbing over before your deciduous trees go fully into bloom or fully into leaf, because where they're rubbing, they're going to end up with scars and scratches like we do on our skin, and then that's the place that's prone to letting disease into the plant. So if they're rubbing, you need to remove one of them. That'll open up the inside of your trees and allow more airflow, which means you get less humidity, which means you get less other diseases as well. So great time to be in the garden because it's not too hot for us. Great time to be in the garden to work, but also it's a great time to eliminate potential problems in the future when it's full-blown summer and we've got lots of humidity around the country. So get rid of those things that are pest diseases, broken branches, things that are rubbing, things that just look like water shoots that shouldn't be there that are sticking out. They're only going to get woodier and branchier, and then it'll be harder to get rid of. So nice sharp pair of shears and go around and do your hedges and keep your eyes open for the problems.
Absolutely. And just while we're going here, I see we've got a couple of hundred people who are viewing us today. Thanks everyone for joining. If you do have a question, please don't wait to the Q&A section. Ask them as we're going. If Jason's talking about, sorry, I blanked for about half of that. Then it was hedges, wasn't it?
Hedges by Hodges.
Hedges by Hodges. Just flick a question to us and we'll address it while we're going. So you mentioned trimming hedges and trimming trees, your lawn. So again, it started growing. What is a good sort of rule to follow when your grasses first started growing?
All right, so this rule has been like thumped into me from my parents, was around grand final weekend, whether it be the AFL or the rugby league, they're not on the same weekend anymore. So from now on is a great time. The next time you mow your lawn, go through with a rake. Actually, I've invested this year. You guys now sell the Wolf hand tool products. And I got a thatching rake. So it looks just like a normal rake, except the blades are like thinner and sharper. And you go through your lawn and you just jazz it up. And the best visual example I can give you of it, and it's not pretty, is go through with the rake and get all the grass to stand up. It'll look really, really messy. And then what you do is you just lower the deck on your mower one down from where you normally mow it, and you cut all that stuff off. Now, the reason you do it, I do need a haircut. The reason you do it is because all the stuff that you've hit with the rake that stood up is all the runners that have got no roots. They've got aerial roots that aren't touching the ground. They're growing over the top of other ones. And so by lifting them up and chopping them off, what you've left in the ground is touching the ground, and then you've made your lawn more drought tolerant for the next 6 months. And so it might look, you'll mow it and it might not look as good as what your lawn normally looks, but that's a great time to put down a fertiliser, give it a water, and then 7 days later, it'll look the best it will look for the whole year.
Yeah, no, it's a great tip, and there's a few different ways, I guess, to skin a cat when it comes to cutting your lawn low. We're going to address them in detail later. There's verticutting, there's scarifying, there's de-thatching, and there's all these sort of things, but I'll iterate what Jay said there. Nothing helps grass repair and regenerate like mowing.
Yeah.
It sounds funny, but it's a similar principle. What was the thing you said to me before about cutting your hair and it grows more or something?
All right, so there's an old wives' tale. If you're going bald,
don't look too close.
That's why you set the camera down low.
I don't know what I noticed.
If you're going bald, they used to say if you shave your nut and you take it all off, it'll grow back twice as thick. Well, the bad news is that doesn't work, but it definitely works for everything to do with the garden. So I'll talk about buxus, right? If I planted a buxus and never pruned it, in 12 months it might be this tall, but it'd only be about 6 or 8 branches. If I planted it and gave it a haircut straight away, there's still those 6 or 8 branches, but every one of them will send out 3 or 4 shoots. So then 3 months later, I'll do it again, and every one of them will send out 3 or 4 shoots. So 18 months later, it might be 6 inches shorter, but the 6 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 means I've got 100 branches, and I've got a tight little buxus ball that's worth good money. And it's the same with your lawn. If you mow it regularly, your lawn will grow across and be nice and thick. If you mow it irregularly, you'll have longer, taller lawn, and then you've got more space for weeds to be exposed to the soil, and they'll germinate, and that's when you'll start having problems with your lawn. It's much easier to mow a lawn regularly than to mow it irregularly anyway, and you'll end up with superior looking lawn. It's the same with a hedge. If you lightly tip prune it 3 or 4 times a year, it might take you 15 minutes each time. If you have to do it with a pair of loppers and a chainsaw once a year, you're going to have a very sparse hedge.
So with turf, I know there's a common saying, it's probably a bit of a layman's saying, but you can train your grass to grow sideways, and you do that by mowing regularly. So if you've got a patch, and we're going to talk about repairing these areas soon, but if you have a patch that you want to cover over, you can aerate, you can top dress, you can fertilise, but regular mowing is actually a great way to encourage that grass to creep sideways and not always grow up. Whilst growing up is still important, getting good leaf growth is important, regular mowing will really help a grass to thicken up. And when a grass thickens up, it's a natural weed barrier too, and you're spraying less chemical, less herbicides, that sort of thing on it. So that is a great tip. Anything else you want to cover off before we move into some more detail?
And if you're of my dad's vintage, where it's mow the lawn to an inch of its life, if you're mowing your lawn and you're seeing what looks like white bits where you've scalped the lawn, that's the exact opposite to what you want to do for the whole year. So mow the lawn low this week, like I said, drop it down 1. But actually mowing it a little bit higher makes it look better. It's lusher and greener. There's more leaf cover, which means less penetration of weeds. So mowing your lawn high and light is far superior and looks better for your lawn than mowing it low and less frequent.
So we've got a number of questions that have come through, which is great. A couple of people are just saying hi to you and not to me, which is
Oh, Joe, you need a cuddle.
I kind of understand. Oh no, Stacey says hi, Joe. So a lot of these questions, instead of answering now, we're probably going to address them in a lot of detail over the next sort of 20 minutes or so. What we're going to dive into now is some specifics. We're going to focus on lawn. I think you covered plants and hedges and that sort of thing pretty good then. The questions thing's empty, but the comments thing's full. So I thought no questions are coming through, but we've actually got a stack. I was just looking in the wrong section, which I tend to do. But we'll jump into some lawn stuff now. Before we do, these logos are a little bit pixelated, but I'm from Lawn Solutions Australia, and we're a national network of turf suppliers, and we've got member turf farms all around the country. A lot of them are family businesses who have got decades and decades and decades of experience in turf. So whilst we run these seminars today, if you've ever got a question ongoing, you can always reach out to the Lawn Solutions Australia office or your local LSA member. The way you find them is you jump on the Lawn Solutions Australia website, go to the Turf Suppliers tab at the top of the page, pop in your postcode, and all their details will show up. So it's really, really, really easy to follow. We also do regular blogs and video. You call them vlogs? Video?
Vlogs.
No, not you. Regular videos and blog topics on all things lawn. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out our website, and you'll see everything you need to know on lawn. I do most of them, but when they want someone else in, they get you to do them for whatever reason. I write the scripts for you, but we won't talk about that too much. If you're talking turf and you want to get some turf delivered, we just wanted to raise the point that during these COVID times, all Lawn Solutions Australia members offer contactless delivery, and all the turf they produce is independently certified by a company called OzGap, weed, disease and pest damage free. And contactless delivery is a bit of a buzzword at the moment, but it's pretty important.
It is, and it's not just like the day of delivery. So if you go back to how turf's laid, they grow turf in a paddock. When they take out a metre of turf for you, they leave a ribbon. It's about 100 metres wide. And then over the next 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, that grows across, and that's the next crop of lawn. So no one's touched it. They use Robomaxes now, which are tractors with a big side chute on it, which cuts the turf, it spades it underneath. It either rolls it up or turns it into a slab. It moves up a conveyor belt onto a pallet. When the pallet's full, the machine drops it on the ground, and the next pallet goes in place. A forklift comes along, puts that on the back of the truck. The forklift actually sits on the back of the truck. The driver secures it down, drives it to your property with the same forklift, takes it off, and then pretty much presents it to a spot in your yard. If the forklift can fit there, the turf can go straight onto the lawn, into the backyard, and the first person that physically touches that piece of grass, because it's mown by tractors, the first person that physically touches it is either you as the homeowner or your landscaper, and so it is genuinely contact-free from human hands for the life of that turf being grown and manoeuvred to your property.
So whilst that's good for COVID, I don't know the best way to put it, but whilst it's good for COVID and disease and germs and all that sort of thing, it's good for the quality of the grass, because instead of being triple, quadruple handled, it's straight from the farm, straight to your door. It's a pretty good thing to do, especially if you look for a high quality job.
15, 20 years ago, I'd get turf delivered to a job that pretty much had been bashed up left, right and centre, because it came on the back of an open truck, and old Bill, the truck driver, would stand on the back and he would throw the turf onto the ground, and it would bounce, and then he'd throw the next one on top of it, and it would resemble something of a pile. But when you'd finish laying the turf, you'd look on the ground and there'd be half a cubic metre of soil there that doesn't get shaken off the lawn now because it's moved a lot more gently.
And it's certified. Happy days. Righto. What we're going to do now is we've got a lot of questions and they're backing up, and I do think we're going to address them without actually addressing them, just with the... That makes sense? Yeah. Just with the information we're going to talk about now, but we will get to the more specific ones at the end. We're getting a lot of hellos and a lot of shout-outs. So hello back to everyone, even the ones that have mentioned my name. I'm not just saying hello to you, but we won't talk about that. I get it. All right, so Lawn Solutions Australia not only does supply turf, but us and our members supply a wide range of lawn care products too, and we're not just going to make this a full-blown ad, but the reason we mention this is because these products are out there to fix most of the common lawn problems that people have, which we'll address down the track. But just coming into spring, now we've already touched on a few of these, but I'm going to highlight a few key lawn care factors that you should be doing at this time of year. Hope you can't hear that dog barking. The first thing you should do is definitely treat weeds. So the main types of weeds you get in your lawn are what we call broadleaf weeds. This is clover, this is bindai, this is thistle, and you see a lot of them over winter and at this time of year. The reason you do see them is because they love lawns that aren't growing and they love nitrogen deficient soils, particularly clover. So you're not fertilising over the winter, so your soil is low in nitrogen, so the clover basically pounces. And your lawn's not growing to create that natural weed mat, so the clover can pop straight through. So, this is actually you. I didn't know you're on there. So, it's only kind of be covered. So this is a great time of year to treat for broadleaf weeds. You can do so by buying a broadleaf herbicide that you just clip your hose on, spray it, and away you go. If you've got a softleaf buffalo lawn, this is really important to flag, is you can't use weed and feed. Do you know why?
Because it's broadleaf and it's killing a broadleaf weed. Is that
Sort
right?
of. There's an active ingredient in weed and feed that's called dicamba. It's actually not safe or registered for softleaf buffalo lawns. So weed and feed, whilst it's a very popular product, it does a little bit of either, but not much of both. That makes sense. So if you've got a Sir Walter lawn, steer away from weed and feed and use a broadleaf herbicide, a specialised broadleaf herbicide. All-purpose weed control is one we sell here. Really easy to use. Click your hose on, spray it, and away you go. I'd kill your weeds before you fertilised or did anything else. Otherwise, you probably run the risk of just fertilising the weeds a lot, don't you?
I've always been a fan of trying to get my lawn as good as possible. So I feed and water and mow probably every 7 days for about a 6-week period around this time of year. And then I just use this at Easter time. Pre-emergent, trying to stop those winter weeds.
Yeah.
I've had success with that.
No, it's the perfect way to do it, and now is the perfect time too. We're just going to roll through these now. Fertilising. Now, fertilising is probably the number one that's on people's minds. As soon as the weather warms up, it's time to fertilise. A good rule of thumb I like to follow with any lawn across the board: as soon as you've noticed it started growing again, usually around this time of year, get the fertiliser out and water in after you apply to really kickstart that growth after winter.
I've landscaped a new section at home, and 2 weeks ago, the weather report was we're getting 80 to 100 mil over a Monday, Tuesday period. So on the Sunday, I liquid fed everything, the lawn and the garden.
Yep.
And honestly, I can't believe the growth we've had. It's like bang for buck if you can time it with a good shower. Natural rainwater has a lot of nitrogen in it as well. Nitrogen makes our plants and lawns green, and it helps to stimulate new growth. So it was perfect timing. I put it out, and then we got 100 mil of rain, and happy days. My garden never looked so good.
Yeah, it really does work well. And most of these fertilisers are balanced fertilisers, so they're not just full of nitrogen. They've got potassium and phosphorus as well, which is great for root strength and root development. So when you're buying a bucket of fertiliser, just look on the label and make sure it's got an NPK ratio, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. You just don't want to put straight nitrogen on.
No.
Bang, turns everything green. Nothing for the health of the overall plant.
What you need to look for, and it's sort of bang for your buck. Like I use glyphosate, which is Roundup as an example. You go into Bunnings and you look at things and you go, oh, the 1 litre bottle with the trigger is only $6. But the actual amount of product that's going to work is 4 to 5 mil. You can go and buy a concentrate of the same thing for $20, but you don't get the trigger. It's the same with fertilizer. You might buy a big bag of something that pongs out the car on the drive home, but actually bang for your buck with the NPK and trace elements, it might be minute, and you've just bought a massive bag of sawdust. So look for what you really want. If you've got an experienced gardener in your street or someone with a fantastic lawn, ask them what they use, because oils ain't oils, and fertilizers definitely aren't fertilizers. And like I'm obviously here with Lawn Solutions, but you are buying a premium product where it hasn't been chopped down and filled out and like just selling you bulk for the sake of convincing you that you're getting a bargain in this big box.
Just with fertiliser dates through the year, because we've had a couple of questions on them. The start of spring's great. I normally say if you've got a softleaf buffalo lawn, which probably most people do, or any lawn for that matter, start of spring is essential. Squeeze another one in around Chrissy time. Try and do it avoiding the heat of the day. And then also again around Easter time.
My favourite's Easter.
Yeah.
So middle of autumn is pretty much the same temperature as right now.
Yep.
And so you can get that last bit of growth and you can squeeze it out of your garden and your lawn. And just like if we've got to go to hospital, if we are fit and healthy and then we have a problem, we're going to recover quicker and easier. So if I had to go in and get my tonsils out, Joe had to go get his tonsils out, he still trains every day and plays football, he's going to recover easier than me, who's middle-aged and getting old. It's just a fact of life. So if you can feed at Easter, it's not an obvious thing to do, but I think that you get your lawn going into winter for the footy season with the kids at home, get your gardens getting that last bit of growth, and then they're going to come out of winter a lot easier. That's why I like colour guard as well on lawns.
Yep.
You do that as soon as the lawn starts to turn, and then you're going to protect it like putting a doona on it, and it comes out of winter a little bit quicker.
We've had a lot of questions, particularly around clover here. Thanks everyone for sending through these questions. They're awesome. Best way to get rid of rampant clover. So clover can be quite sticky to get rid of. It can really put some strong roots down. A broadleaf herbicide will do it, but you'll generally need a couple of applications. And just to show you a method for this, is don't mow before you apply a broadleaf herbicide. Let the weed show as much leaf as it possibly can. Apply the herbicide, just give it a couple of days to really soak in and dry, and then you can mow, fertilise and do everything else. But
I've got a really good one, which is sort of a home remedy.
yeah.
So glyphosate, which is Roundup and Zero and all of those products, if you were to spray your lawn with it, it'll kill your lawn. So get a couple of drops of it. I'm talking like 5 drops of Roundup. I'll just call it Roundup because everyone knows it as that. A glass of water, put it into an ice cream container or a small bucket. Put one of the pink gloves on that you use in the kitchen when you're doing your washing up. Stick your fingers in it. And a couple of drops of dishwashing liquid that you use as well. That makes it more pliable, which means that let the clover grow so that it's higher than your lawn. Put your fingers into it. Flick it till it's not dripping. So if you held your hand up, it's not going to run down. And just touch the clover with it and break the leaf. Mm-hmm. The clover's higher than the lawn. You put a minuscule amount of glyphosate or Roundup onto your surface. It's not dripping and running down onto your lawn. The clover will die. The grass underneath it will thrive because the clover is actually full of nitrogen, and then you'll get rid of it that way. Honestly, if you had a backyard, 100 square metres, and half it was covered in clover, you would tackle that job in 10 minutes, leave it for 2 or 3 days, then mow the lawn. The glyphosate's gone into the plant, hasn't damaged the lawn underneath it, and you'll get rid of the whole thing for the cost of about 6 cents worth of Roundup.
The best way in general to keep weeds out of your lawn is to keep a healthy lawn.
Yeah.
Fertilising regularly, aerating, top dressing when you need to. Just a couple of questions about the fertiliser that we've had come through, and we get these a lot. Are they safe around pets and that sort of thing? So don't put it in your dog bowl, for starters. Not a good idea. But yes, all the products that we talk about today and we list are super safe for pets. With granular fertiliser, you have to water it in after you apply it. What that does is it washes the pellets, the granules, down into the thatch layer of the grass. Unless you've got chickens, household pets won't be able to get to these granules once you wash it down. So keep the dog off, sure. Water it in, keep the dog, cat off, whatever, goat, whatever people have. Water the pellets into the ground, the granules into the ground. Once it's watered in, they're not an issue. They just can't access them.
Well, I'm speaking from experience. Danny's 14 years old. I've fertilised my lawn 2 or 3 times a year. The only time I've ever had issue was I had an open bag of dynamic lifter, which is an organic fertiliser. Danny liked the smell of it and she thought it was the best thing ever, and she gouged into that and started eating it. But as far as the Lawn Solutions fertilisers, which I have used for the whole of Danny's life, she's fit and well at 14. She's a little dog close to the ground. You know, it doesn't even raise an eyebrow with me that it'd be a concern with Danny.
So we've really got to move on here, but we've had a bunch through for winter grass as well. Now it's getting towards the end of the winter grass season. Winter grass germinates when the soil temperature gets below about 14 degrees Celsius. You can spray them out with a product called winter grass killer, but it is a difficult weed to spray. If you don't have many, I'd encourage people to pull them out by hand. Whilst it's tedious, it's really, really effective. They're actually quite easy to pull out. They're pretty shallow rooted.
After a rain or watering the lawn, great time to pull them out. You're still going to get them next year. You're going to have the seeds in your lawn. Spray them with a pre-emergent. It's like wrapping the seeds up with cling wrap and they can't germinate. But pulling them out is a great visual and stimulant for your lawn to grow anyway.
And just speaking of pre-emergence, we have one called Oxifert. How a pre-emergent herbicide works is it kills the weeds before they appear. So about February, March next year, before the soil temperatures drop, apply a pre-emergent like Oxifert to your lawn. What will happen is it'll form an invisible or
I say cling wrap.
A cling wrap, basically a film over the lawn. The weed still germinates, but before you can see it, it hits that herbicide layer and actually dies. So prevention is the best form of
cure.
What's the saying? Anyway, moving on. Aerating. Jason mentioned wetting agents is an underlooked aspect of plant care. I think aerating is one of the most underlooked or underutilized aspects of lawn care. We have a saying in the turf industry where grass is just the pretty stuff on top. All of the good work comes from a good, strong soil base and soil structure. What can happen over time? The path to the back shed, path to the clothesline, path to the pool, feet, traffic. It can actually make that soil so compacted it's like concrete. You try laying grass on concrete, it's not going to work. What aeration does is it really frees up that soil profile, allows, it's in the name, air, water and nutrient to get down deeper and really helps it regenerate. Don't know if any of you play golf, but about this time of year, you'll see them aerate their greens, their fairways and their surrounds. all that foot traffic. They like to really free up that soil structure to make it easier for roots to go down.
So on a golf course, a professional greenkeeper would call it a pinch point. The pinch points at my house are where we enter the lawn and where we exit the lawn, where we bat for cricket, where we stand off the pavers just near the barbecue, those sorts of spots. So now, because those spots have got potential for recovery with the ground getting warmer, days getting longer, great time to aerate. I like to sort of rake in a little bit of wash limber sand, the stuff that I would typically pave on, because it's coarse, it doesn't compact over time, and it means that oxygen and water can get into where I've aerated. Now, it can be as simple as a garden fork. If you can get down the depth of the garden fork, you're doing really well. But if you can get 100 mil, wiggle it left and right, front and back, there's stupid little shoes that you can put on with nails on them. Literally, if you're using them, send me a video, because I love laughing every time someone falls over, but they don't do much for your lawn. But a garden fork, it's an easy job. Again, after rain or when you've watered, go out there. If you start hitting rubble and rocks, then you know you've got bigger issues. But if your garden fork's going 100 to 150 mil, some sand, don't cover too much of the blade of the grass, because you still want the sunlight and photosynthesis to work. And those pinch points that I was talking about, like where you enter your lawn, what we do at home is we've got a couple of wire pigs. They were $40 and $60, 2 different sizes. They're cute. We put them right where the bare patches are. We aerate, we put a little bit of sand down and we feed it. Then we put the pigs there. The sun still shines through them, but you have to walk around them. So at the edge of our pinch points where the grass is nice, it's copying a little bit of extra traffic for a month or two at this time of year. Then come sort of October, November, we take them away and our lawns recover. So it's just resting the damaged areas and giving them chances. And it means Danny walks around it and chickens walk around it.
Diverting traffic. It really is a great tip.
That's an easy way to say it, but I just took 5 minutes to say it.
That's what I'm here for. So just before we move on from aeration, there's 2 types that you hear about. There's solid tine aeration. Jason mentioned the garden fork before. There's also a thing called core aeration, which is actually taking the core of the soil out. It's much more dramatic, I guess you'd say. If you've got a really, really big compaction problem, I'd recommend coring. If it's quite mild or you just want to do it for lawn health, solid tine aeration is fine. Jason mentioned a lot of rubble and really hard surfaces before. You're not going to want to do that with a manual corer or a garden fork. Duck down to your local hire shop. They've got petrol corers, petrol aerators. They work really, really well. I've actually got one coming from my lawn tomorrow, believe it or not. And they just, if you've got a reasonable sized yard, they're just so much easier. A couple $100 gets you one for half a day. Share it with a neighbour, whatever. They work really good.
Just remember where the backflow for the pool is, the irrigation and any garden lights, because I've done all 3 before in the past.
Good tip. One thing we don't have up here, but we should mention, and we've briefly touched on it before, is just scarifying, verticutting, de-thatching. So what happens over time, Jason mentioned thatch before, it's just excess runners basically growing on top of each other. You want to encourage new growth and new development. So just drop the height on your mower a little bit. It's one way to do it. And just basically cutting the rubbish out of your lawn, aren't you? It's a few extra catches. It's a little bit harder work, but it works really, really well.
It's the one time of the year I recommend you scalp your lawn and expose those white tops.
Yeah.
Because if you did it all year round, all you're doing is putting your lawn under stress and you're going to promote pests and diseases. Mm-hmm. But do it now, feed and water, and I guarantee you, your lawn will look its best it ever has this time next week.
Just a quick tip with it, if you've got a softleaf buffalo lawn, don't go as low right down to the dirt. Reason being is softleaf buffalo doesn't have what we call rhizomes, which are underground roots, doesn't have strong rhizomes. So if you go right down to the dirt, you may not have much of a buffalo lawn left after you're done.
Just go down one lower than what you're doing with my lawn.
Cooch and Kikuyu, smack it down till it's brown. It'll bounce back, no worries at all. Zoysia as well, depending where you are. If you're in the southern New South Wales, Sydney south, don't go super low on Zoysia. If you're in a warmer climate, Zoysia's got strong rhizomes. You can go right down to the ground and it'll be fine. Top dressing. So after you've cored, after you've aerated, after you've fertilised, you can top dress. Now, top dress isn't a necessity. I'd call aeration, fertilising a necessity. De-thatching probably a necessity too, depending how your lawn's looking. Top dressings, if you need it, if you need to fix levels, it's a great way to fix levels.
If you're unhappy with the look of your lawn, if it's up and down. So I don't top dress new lawns because I want the most amount of sun as possible on the blade of grass to promote that photosynthesis. But I would go back 6 to 12 months later and go, okay, it has settled, I can see lumps and bumps, but I don't do it where you can just see sand. I would do it where you can still see the majority of the lawn So if there was a pothole and it was 50 mil, 100 mil, and I needed to fill it in, I would fill it in over the course of 3 months. So the grass is growing through, then I put a little bit more, and the grass grows through, put a little bit more. If you go and fill that pothole like the council does in the bitumen in the road, where you've just suffocated the lawn, and it might find its way through, or it might grow across, but it'll be a slower process than just doing a little bit at a time.
And if you're going to top dress, if you're in the southern states, I'd probably wait a few more weeks. I wouldn't do it now. It's quite harsh on the grass, and you want to make sure your grass is really actively growing before you top dress. We've had a few questions here with what do I top dress with, and the best time. The best time, if you're in the warmer states, is now. If southern, a little bit in a couple of weeks' time. Now, when you top dress, the sandier the soil you use, the better. The other tip with it is you want something that's been double, triple washed or screened. You don't want shells and rocks and all that sort of stuff in it. It gets stuck in your mower and it's just not very nice. So triple washed pit sand is one, clay pit sand, washed river sand. There's a bunch you can get.
So 80-20 at a minimum, which is what you would use as a turf underlay. And aesthetically to our eyes, that makes sense because it's a dark brown, it looks like soil, and that's what we should use. But the washed river sands, the stuff that's playground safe, the washed paving sand, river sand, which is what I like to use. I just find that with the washed river sand, if you looked at it under a microscope, there's lots of different sizes. So there'd be stuff the size of basketballs, footballs, cricket balls, tennis balls, ping pong balls. And so because they're all different sizes, they don't compact. If you go and get something that everything is the same size, then it compacts. And you definitely don't want to use anything like bricklayer sand that has a lot of clay content in it. But yeah, I like the washed river sand or the playground safe sand, the washed beach sand, because it doesn't compact, it doesn't form a crust like the typical top dressing soils that we used a generation ago do.
Absolutely, and we're getting a lot of questions about different types of lawn and if you can do this. You can top dress to any type of lawn. Just one quick tip before we move on. Again, if you've got a soft leaf buffalo lawn, do what Jason said before and try not to cover the whole leaf. Try and leave a little bit showing. You should try and do that with any variety. However, if you've got a healthy cooch or kikuyu lawn, you can pretty much cover it. It's going to grow back through. It'll grow back through anything.
It's going to be done. Just do it in layers.
Yeah.
Layer upon layer.
So just moving on now, we're going to talk a little bit about grub control. Now, we've had a number of questions as well. Thank you again, everyone, for your questions. This is great with grub treatment and grub control. So,
well, I hope Manly lose in the weekend. That'll control those grubs.
Oh, I'm a Dragons fan, so I'll just stay out of this discussion altogether. So with grub control, spring's a time grubs can attack your lawn, if that's the word for it. Also, autumn's a really critical time for grub control. Now, particularly if you're on the coast, I'll get there. We've had lots of problems generally in autumn with armyworm, but there's a lot of other grubs that come in spring as well. So now's a good time to put down a grub control product. And the best type you can put down, like we mentioned, oxifert before. Someone fixed me up with the saying too, prevention is better than the cure. Thanks, Tim. Spit it out, Joe. Prevention is better than the cure when it comes to grub control as well. Now, this product up here is called Acelepryn. Now, Acelepryn is the best grub control product pretty well on the market. It used to be available only in commercial uses, but they've put the GR next to it here, which stands for granular. So it's in a granular form. Now, Acelepryn isn't a knockdown insecticide. It's not going to do a great job if you've got grubs. You'll want to look for a product that has bifenthrin or something like that as the active ingredient. Acelepryn, however, gives you 6 months control. Prevention is better than cure. If you do it now in September and then apply it again in March, it's basically insurance against grubs for your lawn, isn't it?
And if you're a lawn lover, this is a very small investment because guess what? Curl grub, soldier grub, they love beautiful lawns. The better the lawn, the more they'll love it. I had a fantastic lawn, went away for a week. This was about 5 or 6 years ago. And you could see where they entered my lawn, and they're called soldier grubs because they march on, and you could see where they've gone, and you went and put your hand over the grass, and the grass just fell over. They eat the root system, leave the blade of the grass is there, and over 2 or 3 days, they wiped out about 50% of my lawn, and I had to return. So if you've got a really good lawn, you love your lawn, this is a small investment, twice a year, throw it out, hose it in, and again, it forms an impenetrable barrier protects it from the grubs.
They eat the best and leave the rest.
Yeah. So the best lawn in the street will be the one that attacks.
Sean has said Manly 2021 premiers. You've lost a fan with that comment before, I think, Jason.
All right, so if you could just wipe out Sean, can we block him on Facebook? Mate, I'm a North Sydney Bear fan. I hate Manly. It's in my DNA.
You were part of them, weren't you?
No, I was never part of the Beagles.
Just a quick one. We've had a number of comments again about liquid fertilisers versus granular. You can use either. Liquid fertilisers are good if you need to spray a large area. They're really easy to apply. They're generally cheaper to apply as well. They work quicker, so the difference is they're uptaken by the leaf. So if you want a quick green and a quick fix over the first 1 or 2 weeks, use a liquid. The issue with them is they don't have the longevity that granular fertilisers have. That's why liquids are great to use. You can use them every couple of weeks through the year, but at the start of spring, I'd really encourage a granular fertiliser. If you're going to do it once, do it now, because it's just a better all-round, better longevity out of it. But if you just want to give your grass little pick-me-ups through the year, I refer to them Baroccas.
Yeah.
Obviously, your lawn looks like it's a bit hungover. You give it a liquid feed and it'll bounce back nice and quick.
So if you're going to do this, de-thatch your lawn with a rake and a bit of aeration and mow your lawn, there is nothing better than you can do. If you do it over the weekend, mow your lawn on Saturday, on Sunday, give it a liquid fertiliser, give it a slow-release fertiliser, and give it a drink. And I promise you, it'll be the best results you have in 7 days' time. Mm-hmm. The liquid fertiliser is that Barocca, so your lawn's just been bashed up, you've given it a rake and a low mow. The Barocca is straight away going to bounce back, and then the fertiliser is like giving it meat and 3 veg every day for 3 months. So it's a sustainable, way to go for your lawn long term as well.
We just had 3 questions just about in a row come through about RTF, tall fescue, and about scarifying and doing renos on RTF. RTF's a lot different to the other varieties we mentioned because it's a cool season grass. It stays green in winter. It can stay green in summer, but needs a lot of water. Just with RTF, I wouldn't scarify it or scalp it down to the ground because it doesn't have that really strong root system. So similar to buffalo, I just sort of take the top of it. Same rule applies with RTF when you're using a top dress. Don't cover the whole leaf. Just go a little bit into it just so it can still photosynthesize.
And when you've watered, water it again.
Yep.
Beautiful looking lawn, but
Beautiful
a lot of work in Australia.
Okay, so what we're going to talk about now, before we move on to questions, we've probably got a couple of minutes and then we're going to jump into questions because we've got so many. Just laying new lawns. Now, we're going to talk about a few different varieties of turf you can lay. I know a lot of you have probably heard about Sir Walter Softleaf Buffalo, Sir Walter DNA Certified Softleaf Buffalo. There's other options out there now, such as Tiff Tough and Sir Grange, also Eureka Kikuyu, Nullarbor Cooch. So the main thing you've got to consider when you're looking to lay a new lawn, shade's probably the biggest one you got to look at. A lot of housing estates now, small blocks, big houses, shade's a problem. So you really have to factor in shade. Sir Walter Softleaf Buffalo, Sir Walter DNA Certified is the best in shade. If you've got full sun or at least 4 hours of sun a day, you can generally use anything. But just in regards to preparation, we've said before the grass is just a pretty stuff on top. Preparation is super, super important. First thing you got to do is you got to kill what's there. You don't want to leave any weeds, any old grasses or anything there. Even if it's a building site with weeds every now and then, still spray it. Then turning the soil over is probably the most important thing. Would you say 150 to 200 mil good quality soil?
Treat your lawn like it's a garden bed, and then you've done the foundations for the success. You look at this wall, it's beautiful, it's white, it's nice and flat. But if it's not sitting on a good foundation, it's going to crack and move and warp and fall over. The preparation is 90% of the work, and the laying the turf and the watering at the end is literally just icing the cake. Mm-hmm. So you can have the best icing, but if the cake's as hard as a rock, well, you're just going to lick the icing off and you're never going to enjoy the cake. You can grow turf on the Pacific Highway or the Princess Highway. If you water it and never stand on it and don't let anyone touch it, you can keep it alive. But it's going to be hard work. So if you cut out any of the steps of preparation, if that's 100% success, and then you don't prepare the 150 mil, it makes it a bit harder. And then there's builder's rubble there, and it makes it a bit harder. And then there's a lot of clay, and it makes it a bit harder. And so your chances of success means, you can't walk on it very often, you can't play on it, and you have to water it and feed it a lot because the roots are going to be minuscule. If you treat it like a garden bed and you prepare that 100, 150 mil, means you get nice deep roots, the lawn gets established, and it means you, the homeowner, or the maintenance contractor, or the landscaper, don't have to do all that feeding and watering just to keep it alive.
Yeah.
All the food you give it and all the water you give it is going to make it a spectacular lawn.
Mm-hmm. Do the work early, then you won't have to do the work down the track. So really, really good summary there, Jason. Just quickly, if you're looking to put a new lawn in, today was more about how to prep up an existing lawn. But if you're looking to put a new lawn in, the best thing you can do is jump on the Lawn Solutions website and just talk to your local grower. So your local Lawn Solutions member. So our office where we are, we know a little bit about our local area, but for best localized advice, pop your postcode in, ring your local growers. They sell grass to all around their areas every single day, and a lot of them have been doing it for decades now. So whatever there is to know, they'll generally know it. So if you've got a question, you're unsure about a variety, you can contact the Lawn Solutions head office. But your best thing you can do is just get straight in touch with your local grower. They can give you all the information you need right then and there on the spot. Now, just to round off, we're down to our last sort of 15 minutes. We didn't want to keep anyone longer than an hour. And it still says we have no questions because I was looking at the wrong thing, but we actually have lots and lots and lots and lots. We've got 160 something. So I'm going to try and group them up as best I can and attack them that way. So we had one just then about is thatch the reason I can't push my mower through my lawn easily, and also is thatch all these extra runners I'm seeing? Yes.
Yes, 100%. So like I was saying before, thatches runners growing over other runners. And so by mowing our lawn low once this time of year, we're getting rid of some of that. So the rake is important to rip them up and make them look ugly. Then mowing them off, it's shortened the runner, which means it's closer to contact to the ground, which means it's closer contact to roots, and then you'll have a lusher and greener lawn that will be more drought tolerant. If it's exaggerated probably with a cooch lawn would be the best way to say what thatch looks like, where it's really, really soft and there's lots of brown, dirty, dead grass in it. That's the one that you need to really cut down to the ground, give it a feed and water, and it'll come back like a bowling green. So bowling greens, putting greens at golf courses, the majority of them are a cooch grass. And because they're mowed every day with a cylinder mower and a roller, that's how they keep them at 4 to 6 mil. But when you're doing it every 2 to 3 weeks at home, they grow and they grow on top of each other, and that's how you get thatch. It's inevitable, but like with, say, Sir Grange and even Sir Order, the one that's DNA certified, they are superior lawns that have a lot less thatch anyway. So the outlay when you first buy a lawn is helping you have a successful lawn as well.
Paul has helped us out with my struggle to remember saying preparation in all things is the key to success. Spot on, Paul. We've had a number.
And KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
It's probably more applicable to you than
I just heard that every day of my life.
We've had a heap of questions as well about dog urine burn and dog wee burn. Now, we get these all the time, and they're a bit of a prickly one. With dog urine, generally the shorter and nicer and more manicured you keep your lawn, the more dog urine burns stand out. Now, there's no silver bullet for this. Every dog, every lawn, every situation is totally different. There's a couple of things you can try. There is a product called Dog Rocks. They work sometimes and don't work other times. So
I reckon they work for 3 to 4 months.
Yep.
I had a fescue lawn fetish once upon a time and had a fescue lawn and knew that the dog weed was definitely going to kill it. Had Dog Rocks. Then I started seeing it later on. Got Dog Rocks again, didn't see it. So they definitely work. They're like a sponge that takes the minerals out of the water. The minerals aren't in the urine, and the urine's weaker when it goes to ground. So they do work.
There's a couple of other remedies that we've seen along the way. Put a bit of Greek yogurt in their food or in their water's one. So feel free to Google these and research and try them yourself. Altering their diet to use a lot more.
Teach them to use the toilet.
Hey, Danny's probably smart enough to do that. Smarter than you. So teach them to use. Throw me out so much here. So encourage them to eat more. I guess you call human food is one good way. Get them off the dry food. That can help a bit. There's things I've seen as well called pee posts, which is basically a training aid where it encourages your dog to urine in a certain spot, and you can put it in the garden on the pebbles or something like that, depending on the obedience.
How do you teach the dog? Do you go and do it and then say?
Yeah, I think it just sees where you're going. It lets off a scent of some kind, and that works. So pee post or dog wee post or something. They're worth checking out.
Can I tell you a true story? This is very funny.
Yeah.
So at Bunnings, they sell this composting bin, and it's for dog and cat waste, that like separate to your normal compost bin.
Right.
Anyway, the picture is a dog sitting on the compost bin reading the paper. And I'm doing an in-store appearance at Bunnings, and this little lady says to me, Jason, how do you teach the dog to sit on the box? And I said, don't worry about teaching the dog to sit on the box. Imagine trying to teach it to read. You sit there reading the paper.
Adrian has asked, what are your thoughts on catching as opposed to mulching? Now, this is a
good question.
Good question, Adrian. Now, I'll start, if you don't mind. Just don't say the opposite to what I say, because that won't work. Catching and mulching, look, it's six and one half a dozen in the other. So catching's great because if you mulch constantly, that's where you can build up thatch issues in your lawn. So catching's really good because it keeps it nice and neat and tidy. Mulching on a larger area is great, particularly if you've got a good mulching mower, because it actually drip feeds nitrogen back into the soil profile. So if you're fertilizing and keeping your lawn well, that means there's a nitrogen content in your leaf. If you cut that leaf and consistently drop it back into the soil profile, it sort of acts like a fertilizer. So mulching is great in that regard. But if you've got a small yard and you want to keep it tidy and you don't want thatch build up, I'm a catcher fan. On a larger area, if you can mulch too, it is just as good. But I would recommend just keeping an eye on thatch build up if you're consistently mulch mowing.
If you've got a good mower with great blades and you mow regularly, like leaving the clipping is not a problem. If you're mowing irregularly and you're leaving a snail trail of grass that, a pile of it, you are going to have problems with humidity build up, and then your lawn's going to yellow off. You're going to have fungus and diseases. But if you're mowing regularly, we live on 6 acres now. There's an acre of lawn around the house. I am not picking it up. My lawn looks spectacular because I'm a slave driver and I made Lisa mow it every week in summer.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me. Mark's asked, how do I remove cooch from my Sir Walter Buffalo lawn? Now, this can cover a variety of topics. We'll treat this as removing kikuyu, removing cooch, removing any foreign type of turf out of your type of turf. So as a rule of thumb, there's nothing non-selective you can spray. You can't blanket spray a Sir Walter lawn and kill the cooch without killing the Sir Walter. There's a couple of ways to approach it. The best thing you can do is, Jason mentioned it before with clover control. You can actually get some glyphosate or some Roundup. There's a things that they sell called weed wands, which are good, which is basically a long stick with a little paintbrush at the end. Or you can actually get a paintbrush or use the glove trick you mentioned before and carefully apply the glyphosate or the non-selective herbicide to the cooch or to the kikuyu without touching your Sir Walter or whatever grass you're trying to keep. That's one way to do it. You can pull it out, but it's not as effective, particularly with the depth of roots that some of these grasses like cooch and kikuyu have. If you've got a beautifully manicured Sir Walter DNA certified lawn and your neighbour has a wrangly cooch or kikuyu lawn and you want to keep it out, you can minimise it, but you're never going to totally get it. You can put garden edging in and that sort of stuff and it will keep them at bay. Just keep a small thing of glyphosate handy and a paintbrush and apply it. I think that's probably the best way.
Corten steel, which is about 4 to 6 mil thick, which has become a very trendy garden edge, is a great divider between two people's lawns if it's out of the medium strip. And just one tip for mowing your lawn, and I did this religiously when I was in Sydney, was I mowed my backyard first, then I mowed my front yard, then I mowed the medium strip. And the reason why is the most amount of weeds will be on the medium strip because you live on a road and it's a bit of a wind tunnel and every foot traffic and people hopping in and out of cars, and the next door neighbour's lawn might be mowed by Jim and he mows 20 lawns in a day, so all the weeds pick up on his mower underneath the chassis, and then next time he starts it, vibrates and they drop on the ground. So by mowing the medium strip last, then I've got that little hole in your mower, you put the hose in and you clean your deck while the mower's running, and I haven't brought the weeds from the medium strip into the front yard and into the backyard. So, it might just mean that you change the process, but mow the backyard first, then the front yard, and then the medium strip.
Scott's asked, it's Friday Arvo and you're talking lawns. Why is there no beer in your hand? That's a very, very valid point. I wonder
who Scott is.
Yeah, very, very valid point. Just back to your point you mentioned just then, it's a great tip. Work from best to worst and then wash your mower. The same rule applies if you've got a Sir Walter lawn at the back and you might have a kikuyu medium strip. Mow the Sir Walter first and then mow the kite because you can't put Sir Walter down into kikuyu. Any advice on using wetting agents from the lawn coming into summer? Can you overuse from Kelly? You want to start with that one?
I don't think you can overuse it. I mean, I use the click-on bottle stuff. No, I don't think you could overuse it because it's inert. It's not something that the plant draws up. What it does is if soil has become hydrophobic, it's like got oils and tannins wrapped around each individual cell of it. Like when our hair's dirty and dusty, and you put water on it, the water kind of goes around your hair rather than through it. It shampoos and conditions the soil. So, no, I don't believe that you can put more on than a problem.
Agree with that. Luke's asked, is it worth doing a restart like you see people do with other lawns when they cut it right back before spring and then cover it with sand soil to regrow again, or better to fertilise and revive from where it is now? So we sort of covered that a bit today, but just as a rule of thumb, I say restarting is a good way to put it, particularly if you've got an aggressive growing lawn like Kuch or Kikuyu, or Tiff Tough is a good one as well. If you're not quite happy with it, we call this a lawn renovation, where you scarify, you aerate, you top dress, you fertilise and you water it. With Tiff Tough, I know we talked about our computer expertise before. If something's wrong, you generally pull it out of the PowerPoint and plug it back in.
I call the kids.
You call kids. A lawn renovation is essentially doing that to your lawn. It's basically turning it on and off at the PowerPoint. You're pressing restart on it. So if you're not quite sure what's wrong and it's struggling, scarifying, top dressing, aerating, fertilising and watering is a good way to really kickstart your lawn.
Put it this way, if you've got an old established lawn and I'd say it's more than 40% gone, I'd be looking at finding and making the investment on a new lawn, because you're probably going to get heartbroken because you've got compaction, damp soil, you'd have drainage problems. If the weeds are doing that well that it's 40% or more, that's when you probably need to speak to a lawn solutions expert. They can help you move forward on a new lawn.
Just with drainage, Tim's asked a question about tips on ridding moss from my lawn. Generally, moss occurs in really wet, shaded, damp areas. And compacted. Poor drainage is actually a really big issue in a lot of lawns, particularly if you're in the southern states. We get a lot of this from our Melbourne-based lawn enthusiasts or Victoria-based that contact our office. So poor drainage is the root of a lot of problems, particularly in soft-leaf buffalo lawns like Sawalta DNA certified. Reason being is if they're poorly drained and you get a wet winter like we've just had, the water can't go anywhere because it's too cold and it's not evaporating. So it just sits there and your grass stays wet. Turf grass hates wet feet. And what will happen is the roots will actually begin to rot. So if you've got moss or you've got generally a struggling area, which is, it might be in the middle of your lawn because your lawn pulls to the middle or pulls to a certain area, aerating and top dressing is a great way to fix drainage. If it's a really bad problem, you may have to look at ag lines or cutting in some actual drainage.
There's a huge difference between moist and damp. So damp's hanging around forever, and moist means your plant's getting the nutrients that it needs, whether it be a hedge, a garden, a rose, your lawn. So moist, well-draining soil compared to something that's damp is the difference between alive and dead.
Can you overuse your lawn solutions lawn feed? Well, just as a fertiliser in general, yes and no. So with a granular fertiliser, as a minimum, depending, if you've got a good looking lawn and you want to keep it looking good, as a minimum, I'd say every 8 to 10 weeks is probably as a minimum. If you're trying to get grass to recover or to grow or to expedite that growth, you can bring that into every 4 or 6 weeks for a period of time. You don't want to consistently do it because what you're doing is the main component of fertiliser is nitrogen. If you keep pumping nitrogen into your lawn regularly, it'll be growing too quick. You'll get thatch problems and scalping problems. So I think to a point.
And you can also do too much in one application. So have a look at the bag. It'll tell you kilos per square meters. Rule of thumb, 5 kilo bag of Sir Launcher will do about 100 square meters of new lawn. You lay that underneath, and pretty much you can either feed the chooks, which is throwing it out by hand, or you can use a thrower. You just want even coverage. It looks like hundreds of thousands or sesame seeds on the lawn, on the new lawn, and it's a little bit harder to visually see with an established lawn. So I do recommend you having a thrower, and I try to do it light and often. So if I was doing a lawn, I'd go up and back lightly and quickly, and then I'd go across it. So if you just go in the one direction, it might be falling in front of me heavier than it is to the sides, and then you get a regular growth in your lawn. Where if I go up and back and then across and back, I've covered the whole thing in 4 different directions. Do it 4 times lightly, then 1 time heavy, and you'll get an even coverage. And just a little tip, if you're getting it onto hard surfaces like pavers, tiles and concrete, hose that off. That helps give the edges of your lawn, which are the driest parts of your lawn as well, because they're against products like concrete that heat up. But it also means you're getting any fertiliser granules off there, which potentially can stain hard surfaces because they've got the trace elements in it which have things that react with other materials.
We're coming up to our hour now. We're just going to have one more question. It's from Levi. Levi has a Tiff-Tuff lawn, and I just think this question's pretty relevant to all types of lawn, not just Tiff-Tuff. But if you have a Tiff-Tuff lawn that's less than a month old, when can you top dress to remove bumps? Now, this is common because a lot of times it might rain when when you're doing your prep, or when you're laying a lawn, or you might rush your preparation or something like that, and you don't get your levels right, and you want to fix them right away. It does depend on the variety. With Tiff-Tuff, you're pretty fortunate. It establishes the ground really quickly. As a rule of thumb, though, depending on the type of lawn you have, I'd wait till at least you've mowed it sort of 4 or 5 times if it's a young lawn. Tiff-Tuff, you can do it sooner, maybe after 2 or 3 mows. Same with Kikuyu. With Sir Walter's or your fescue, I'd wait till at least 4 or 5 mows, because you don't want to top dress a lawn that hasn't got an established root system.
So as a landscaper, I would try and speed that up a little bit. And I would absolutely never do it while I could still peel up a corner.
Yep.
Because the corners of a roll of turf will be the spot that is got the least amount of contact with the ground, purely and simply because it's just got nothing to hold it down, because it's the corner. So if I can't lift up a corner, I know the roots are attached to my subsoil, and then I would start mowing. So as a landscaper, if I was in the final throw of finishing the job and I wanted to get that final payment from a client, I'd probably mow the lawn and make it look the best I possibly could. And if they were talking to me about potholes or little spaces that need top dressing, I'd probably be doing it at this time of year, about 4 weeks after I laid it. But yeah, if perfect timing would be about 3 or 4 mows,
yep,
because the roots are well established.
I would agree with that. Now, that's our hour. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all the questions. There really was a lot. Again, if you ever want to get in touch with us or one of our members, you can do so through our website, through our Facebook page, through our YouTube channel. Ask away any questions you got there to us or our members, and they will be happy to help. Again, thanks so much for jumping on, and thanks for all your questions. Sorry we can't get to them, but it's been fun.
And if you've got a gardening question, I'm really enjoying answering them on Instagram, so you can...
What's your handle? Jason Hodges?
My handle? It's... Jason Hodges and Co. No, but I hopefully I'll get back to you, because I do enjoy keeping in touch and sharing the knowledge, and people sending photos of their success stories and stuff like that. So if it's the lawn, you want to speak to the real experts, by all means go to one of your Lawn Solutions growers around the country. They're a great bunch of people who love sharing their knowledge. And if it's a gardening question, send me a photo or ask me a question, and I'll answer you back. I wake up about 4:30 in the morning and there's nothing to do for that first hour until the sun comes up. I'll answer your question.
Give me your phone number.
It's what's your phone number, Joey? I really appreciate your support.
That's it. Thanks everyone, and thanks for everyone who's given us some great feedback there. We'll couple of questions about doing another one. We'll see how we go. We might make this a semi-regular thing depending on the time of year. So that's it. Thanks very much, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Have a great weekend, and go every team except for Man.